This is a special report from True Crime Today and the Hidden Killers podcast.
I'm Tony Brueski, and today we're diving headfirst into the unsettling trial that has gripped the quiet town of Delphi and the nation beyond. Some stories are written in ink. Others, like this one, are etched in fear and whispered through shadows. It's a story of two innocent lives cut short, a chilling voice caught on tape, and a suspect who walked among his neighbors for years, unnoticed, until now. The trial of Richard Allen, accused of killing Abby Williams and Libby German, has brought to light haunting new details. Details that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew. A bullet found at the scene, alleged confessions made behind prison walls, and a defense that insists their client is not the monster the prosecution paints him to be. But beneath the evidence and testimony lies a deeper question. What motivates someone to commit such unthinkable acts? Is it madness, misfortune, or something darker that drives a person to destroy lives? As we uncover the facts, I invite you to join me in considering. Are we really seeing the whole picture? Or just the parts that someone wants us to see? The courtroom in Carroll County is electric with tension. Richard Allen, dressed in a purple button-down shirt and khaki pants, sits silently at the defense table. For 5 years, he lived quietly in Delphi, a man neighbors described as unremarkable, blending into the fabric of the town. Now he faces 2 counts of murder, accused of taking the lives of 14-year-old Liberty German and 13-year-old Abigail Williams on February 13, 2017, during a hike on the Monon High Bridge Trail. The prosecution wastes no time. Carroll County Prosecutor Nicholas McClelland rises and delivers an opening statement that cuts straight to the bone. The last thing the girls saw was Richard Allen's face, he tells the jury, and chillingly, they heard his voice, recorded by Libby on her phone. "Girls, down the hill." McClelland explains how the fear in their voices is palpable, the camera capturing the moments just before their lives were taken. It's an eerie reminder of how close the victims came to securing their own justice. Libby's quick thinking that day left behind the most crucial piece of evidence: the grainy video of a man in a blue jacket and jeans following them on the bridge. It became the centerpiece of the investigation, a haunting image known to the public as Bridge Guy. The audio clip where the suspect commands the girls to go down the hill was shared widely across media, sparking both community involvement and national speculation. But as the trial reveals, it wasn't just the audio or video that led to Allen's arrest in 2022. McClelland explains how an unused bullet found at the scene connects Allen directly to the crime. The Sig Sauer handgun discovered at Allen's home had cycled the bullet, a chilling connection that prosecutors argue makes it irrefutable that Allen was present during the murders. The prosecutor also alleges that Allen made multiple incriminating statements, some to his wife, others to law enforcement and fellow inmates, admitting his involvement in the crime. Allen sits stone-faced, shaking his head slightly as McClelland recounts the state's timeline of events. At times, his wife, Kathy, mirrors his disbelief from the gallery, shaking her head in unison. The defense is quick to attack this narrative, arguing that the alleged confessions are unreliable and made under duress while Allen was held in isolation, experiencing a mental health crisis. Defense attorney Andrew Baldwin insists Richard Allen is innocent. He is truly innocent. Baldwin's defense is built around casting doubt on the state's case. He points to inconsistencies, including the strange discovery of a strand of hair in Abby Williams' hand, belonging to a female relative of Libby, not Allen. Baldwin argues that crucial pieces of evidence have been lost or mishandled, and he raises serious questions about a turf war between investigative agencies. According to the defense, the FBI was abruptly removed from the investigation, leaving behind unresolved tensions that compromised the integrity of the case. The defense also disputes the state's timeline. Baldwin asserts that Allen was on the Monon High Bridge Trail on the day the girls disappeared, but left well before their alleged abduction. He tells the jury that Allen's car was captured leaving the area by 2:15 p.m., and the state's claim that Allen remained on the trail until after 4 p.m. is unfounded. More troubling, Baldwin points to a suspicious anomaly: Libby's phone, found beneath Abby's body, connected to a cell tower at 4:33 a.m. on February 14, 2017, hours after the state alleges the girls were murdered and left at the scene. After 4 p.m. on February 13th, human hands handled that phone, Baldwin says, and those hands did not belong to Richard Allen. Baldwin suggests an alternative theory that the girls were taken somewhere else and brought back to the crime scene later. The defense argues that Allen was at home that night, and someone else placed the bodies and the phone in the woods before their discovery the next day. The prosecution dismisses these claims as baseless, but the doubt has been planted. At least 2 jurors furiously scribble notes as Baldwin presents his theory. Throughout the trial, the media frenzy only grows. Strict rules prohibit journalists from using electronic devices inside the courtroom, and Judge Fran Gull confiscates several cameras from photographers who ventured too close to the courthouse, yet the public's appetite for updates remains insatiable. Crowds line up outside the courthouse at 2:30 a.m., braving the bitter cold for a chance to witness the trial firsthand. Some speculate on social media, piecing together their own timelines and theories. The town of Delphi itself is divided. The small community of 3,000 people was initially united in grief after Abby and Libby's deaths. But the arrest of Richard Allen, a familiar face in town, has added a new layer of tension. Some residents believe in Allen's innocence, while others are convinced of his guilt. The courtroom has become a battleground for these conflicting opinions, with each new revelation adding fuel to the fire. Testimony from the victims' families is heart-wrenching. Libby's sister, Kelsey Siebert, recounts the events of February 13, 2017, when she dropped the girls off at the trail. "They were so excited," she says, her voice cracking. "We had the windows down, music blasting. It was a good day." Her last interaction with Libby was a text exchange later that afternoon. When Libby didn't respond, Kelsey assumed the girls were still exploring. "I didn't think anything bad had happened," she says. "Not until the next morning." Libby's grandmother, Becky Patty, describes the growing dread as, "The hours passed without any sign of the girls. We searched everywhere," she says, tears streaming down her face. "And then I saw the coroner's truck drive by. That's when I knew." As the trial continues, it becomes clear that this case is not just about evidence and timelines. It's about a community coming to terms with the unthinkable. The Monon High Bridge, once a place of beauty and adventure, has become a symbol of tragedy. The families of Abby and Libby sit in the courtroom every day seeking answers, closure, and justice. Whether or not the trial will deliver those things remains to be seen. The prosecution rests on the argument that Richard Allen is the man on the bridge, the person responsible for the brutal slayings of Abby and Libby. But the defense maintains that the real killer is still out there, and Allen is nothing more than a scapegoat caught in a flawed investigation. With the nation watching, the trial is more than just a search for justice. It's a test of trust in the criminal justice system. The stakes couldn't be higher, and every new day brings fresh twists and revelations. As the trial progresses, the line between guilt and innocence becomes increasingly blurred. The jury's task is daunting: to sift through the noise and determine whether Richard Allen is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, or if the true killer still walks free among them. To fully understand the weight of the Delphi murders and the trial of Richard Allen, we need to step back to February 13, 2017, a day that began as a carefree outing for 2 best friends but ended in tragedy. Abigail Abby Williams and Liberty Libby German, 2 vibrant teenagers, were enjoying a day off from school. The unseasonably warm weather inspired their decision to hike the Monon High Bridge Trail, a scenic but somewhat remote spot just outside their small hometown of Delphi, Indiana. Libby was a thoughtful girl who loved sports and photography, while Abby was known for her adventurous spirit and sense of humor. They were inseparable, sharing dreams, laughter, and friendship. That day, the girls captured moments of their hike on social media, including photos on Snapchat that would later become haunting mementos. As time passed, their family assumed they were simply taking their time on the trail. But when neither girl returned home or responded to phone calls, concern quickly turned into alarm. The community sprang into action, with volunteers and law enforcement conducting an extensive search that continued into the night. Tragically, on the morning of February 14, 2017, searchers discovered the bodies of Abby and Libby about half a mile off the trail near Deer Creek. The scene was disturbing, and the manner of death, having their throats cut, shocked even seasoned investigators. The small town of Delphi, known for its close-knit community, was thrust into the national spotlight as a murder investigation unfolded. At the heart of the investigation was a piece of evidence left behind by Libby, a grainy video of a man following the girls on the bridge. In it, the man, later identified as Bridge Guy, is dressed in a blue jacket, jeans, and a cap. The audio clip where he instructs the girls to go down the hill became a key focus for investigators and the public alike. The chilling directive sparked countless theories online and reignited interest each time new evidence surfaced. For months, investigators chased leads, interviewed witnesses, and released 2 different sketches of a suspect, one in 2017, another in 2019. However, despite the public's fascination and law enforcement's best efforts, the investigation seemed to stall. Years passed without a viable suspect, leaving the families of Abby and Libby to carry the weight of their grief. While the case remained unsolved, the investigation experienced setbacks along the way. Disputes between agencies, specifically the state police and the FBI, caused tensions that disrupted collaboration. The defense would later argue that this turf war led to miscommunications and critical evidence being lost. Public frustration grew as months turned into years with no resolution in sight. For many, the case became emblematic of the challenges faced in small-town investigations with limited resources and growing public pressure. Then, in 2022, a breakthrough. Richard Allen, a local pharmacy technician, was arrested. Investigators had revisited prior tips and uncovered that Allen had been interviewed in 2017. He had admitted to being on the trail the day Abby and Libby disappeared, but claimed he only saw other hikers and left the area before the girls were harmed. Yet new evidence, an unused bullet found at the scene, allegedly tied Allen's firearm to the crime. Allen's arrest was a bombshell for the town of Delphi. He was someone known to many residents, a man who lived and worked among them, seemingly ordinary. To some, the idea that a neighbor could commit such a heinous act was unthinkable. Others saw his arrest as a long-awaited answer to the mystery that had haunted the community for years. But as details of the case emerged, so too did questions about whether Allen was truly the perpetrator or merely a convenient suspect caught in the crosshairs of a troubled investigation. The trial has also highlighted the complexities of psychological theories that often arise in such cases. Some experts suggest that the killer's behavior, targeting 2 young girls and recording the encounter, could indicate a need for dominance and control. Others theorize that Allen's alleged confessions might have been influenced by psychological stress, especially given the harsh conditions of his confinement after his arrest. The defense argues that Allen's mental health deteriorated under the pressure, leading to unreliable statements that the prosecution now uses against him. The environmental and social context also plays a role in understanding the case. Delphi is a small community where everyone knows everyone, a fact that both complicates investigations and intensifies public scrutiny. The tragedy forced residents to confront uncomfortable truths about trust, safety, and the possibility that evil could lurk in familiar places. For many, the Manon High Bridge, once a beloved spot for hiking and photography, became a symbol of loss and fear. As the trial unfolds, the courtroom becomes a stage for these competing narratives. Prosecutors argue that Richard Allen hid in plain sight, masking his guilt for 5 years before the evidence finally caught up with him. The defense, however, paints Allen as an innocent man ensnared by a flawed investigation, with the true killer still out there. The discovery of the hair in Abby's hand, a detail that points away from Allen, has become a focal point of the defense's case. They argue that it supports their theory that someone else killed the girls and later staged the crime scene. The trial has also revealed how the families of Abby and Libby have struggled to find closure. Public attention on the case has been relentless, with amateur sleuths and true crime enthusiasts dissecting every piece of evidence online. While some of this attention has provided comfort to the families, knowing that their daughters are not forgotten, it has also brought challenges. Speculation about the girls' last moments, the identity of the killer, and the meaning of the audio recordings often border on invasive. For the families, the courtroom proceedings are more than just a trial. They are a reckoning. They listen as prosecutors describe the grisly details of their daughters' deaths, hoping that justice will finally be served. But with every new twist in the case, the uncertainty grows. The defense's claim that the girls were taken somewhere else before being returned to the crime scene adds another layer of complexity. If true, it would mean that the killer's actions were even more calculated than initially believed. The community of Delphi continues to wrestle with the emotional fallout of the case. Some residents find solace in attending the trial, hoping for a resolution. Others remain skeptical, unsure whether Richard Allen is the man responsible. The trial is a painful reminder of the fragility of safety and the difficulty of finding truth in the aftermath of tragedy. As we delve deeper into the case, it becomes clear that the Delphi murders are not just about evidence or suspects. They are about the impact of trauma on a community, the complexities of the legal system, and the search for justice in a world where answers are often elusive. The outcome of Richard Allen's trial will shape not only the lives of those directly involved, but also the community's sense of peace and closure. Whether the jury finds Allen guilty or not, one truth remains. The lives of Abby Williams and Liberty German were taken far too soon. The question now is whether justice will be found in the courtroom, or if the search for truth is destined to continue beyond the trial's verdict. As the trial of Richard Allen presses on, it leaves us with more questions than answers. The facts laid out by the prosecution tell one story: a man in plain sight, calmly working his job and living his life while hiding the unspeakable horror he unleashed on two young girls. But the defense paints an entirely different picture, one of a man under pressure, broken by isolation, confessing to things that never happened, caught in the chaos of an investigation that was flawed from the start. So, what are we to believe? One thing is certain: two lives full of potential were stolen in the most brutal way imaginable. Abby and Libby should be worrying about homework, sports, and their future, not becoming symbols of a community's collective grief. And yet, here we are trying to piece together a puzzle with missing pieces, frayed edges, and a timeline that seems to shift every time new evidence emerges. Is Richard Allen truly the man on the bridge? Or is this trial the result of desperation, a need to pin the blame on someone, anyone, to bring closure to a community that's been haunted for years? The bullet found at the scene, the shaky timeline, and the grainy video all seem to point in one direction. But as we've seen, appearances can be deceiving. Confessions made under duress, mishandled evidence, and interagency turf wars raise doubts about the reliability of the investigation. And then there's the hair found in Abby's hand, belonging to a female not connected to Allen. It's a strange, unsettling detail that refuses to fit neatly into the narrative. If it wasn't his, then who was it? And what role did that person play in this tragedy? Every new revelation seems to raise more questions than it answers. Cases like this remind us how fragile justice can be. It's easy to believe that the legal system will provide clarity, that a verdict will bring peace. But the truth is rarely so simple. We're left grappling with uncertainty, forced to confront the uncomfortable possibility that we may never know the full story. Perhaps Allen is guilty, or perhaps the real killer is still out there, walking the same streets, visiting the same stores, unnoticed and unchallenged. I'm Tony Brueski. If you want to stay up to date on this case and others we cover, be sure to subscribe.
In a world where the darkest secrets lie just beneath the surface.
They said it was an accident, but the evidence says otherwise.
Where hidden killers roam, unnoticed, in the shadows.
I think you would definitely be looking at a blend of toxic, very bad narcissistic personality traits, and they will be vengeful and possibly resort to violence.
Join Tony Brueski as he uncovers the truth behind the most chilling cases.
They said it was an accident, but the evidence clearly says otherwise.
Each episode, we dig deep into the minds of those who commit the unthinkable.
To your point on narcissism, he thinks in his own mind how witty he is.
Yeah.
But he lost that jury. I was done with him in 2 minutes.
From unsolved mysteries to infamous crimes.
Geez, you've just talked about how you taught yourself how to do everything under the sun. I bet you did a YouTube video, how to best kill somebody with a knife.
Hidden Killers with Tony Brueski takes you where few dare to go.
How does someone with such a dark secret go unnoticed for so long?
With multiple new episodes every single day.
We're not just telling stories, we're seeking justice.
Listen now on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Just search for Hidden Killers with Tony Brueski.